Okay, my lawn loving friends, this video is for you because it's June and we need to pay attention to our lawns. Okay, this is by absolutely no backdrop, anything to do with lawns, but at the same time, it's raining out, sun's trying to come out, and I'm getting yelled at that I haven't done my video yet, so I had to hide. So the truck is where I'm at. So anyway, it is June, and we're getting pretty dry out, and we've now had a couple days of passing showers. There's a little moisture in the ground, but summer's about to kick in, and many of us pay attention to our lawn all spring because it looks horrible in the months of April, and then it starts to recover in the month of May, and then we start getting onto summer mode. And as long as that grass is green, we tend to forget about it. But now's the time you want to pay attention to ensure that it's still grass come August and September and not riddled with weeds. So let's see what we're going to do about it. Okay, over my shoulder here is a couple of products that we use. We take care of a handful of lawns on the landscape construction side just so we can stay on top of what's working, what's not working. And now is time that we help the store determine what products to use and what not to use. So in that particular case, what we're doing right now, I don't have a sample of the first step, and that is fertilizer. If you fertilized your lawn back in, say, April, March even, by now the fertilizer is pretty much mostly worn off. Most fertilizers will only work for about 6 to 8 weeks, maybe up to 12 weeks. So right now, we are putting down our second round of fertilizer. Now, what we're doing in a conjunction is I focus on prevention of weeds. So we do 2 applications of crabgrass control. So right now we're going around our counts and we're putting down, some people call it step 1, other people just say it's crabgrass control and fertilizer, but it's a combination fertilizer and weed prevention. That way you put it down now, it extends a little extra control to prevent crabgrass and some of the summer loving weeds later in July and August when it starts getting hot, because routinely we'll get customers that come in and say, I have a late season crabgrass and I got a second bloom of crabgrass. You didn't get a second bloom. There is no late season crabgrass that I'm aware of. It's more of just what happened, especially if you're in Rhode Island near the water. We're just so cool. The crabgrass really doesn't crank into growth until we start hitting 80s on a regular basis. It's now almost the middle of June and we haven't even hit 80 degrees, maybe a day or two. But for the most part, we're cool. So what that means is our crabgrass preventatives may have worn off by the time the crabgrass really starts kicking in. So that's why we choose to do a second round of crabgrass preventative. So that's what we do for that. Now the second thing we need to pay attention to are weeds. Now when it comes to weeds, there's a couple things to watch out for. One, if you've recently seeded your lawn this spring, you need to make sure that that grass has grown up enough that you've had to mow it 2 to 3 times before you can even think about using any weed killers. But in that case, on the assumption that this is an established lawn, or the grass has been mowed a few times and it's looking like a lawn, then you're free to use most lawn weed killers. Now most of them, I don't endorse any one particular kind. I find they all work around the same. Any name brand works pretty well as long as it's designed for lawns. That's very important. And so it kills weeds, not the lawn. That's very important to have on any bottle that you're using. But what I'm specifically looking for is crabgrass and broadleaf weed killer. Now this bottle right here is designed to go onto a garden hose. The reason I like those weed killers is because the simple fact that you just got to find the application rate that is convenient for you. Us, we use backpack sprayers and just take the same retail grade products typically because they work so effectively, and we just put them in backpack sprayers. If you don't like mixing chemicals, you can use the hose-on attachments. You just got to hook up your garden hose to it. But the important part is never apply weed killers when the grass is dry or if it's really hot out. So right now, after we had a couple days of passing rains, it's a great time to try to get down your controls and to get down your weed killers. But look around now, because we don't want to be applying weed killers in August when the heat's really kicking in. So we want to get out there now, get the fertilizer down, get the crabgrass prevention down, and try to get rid of any weeds that are there currently, because those weeds are going to flourish in the summer heat and start choking out what grass is there. Now this is a long video, I know, but please stick with me because there's 2 more very important steps that we need to pay attention to. So please watch all the way to the end. All right, so the last two steps that we need to do is we need to pay attention to grubs. Grubs, if you're not familiar, I'm going to be doing whole videos on grub applications and grub controls and cycles, but the short course on this is grubs are a cyclical insect. They spend 3/4 of the year in the ground as a nasty little grub that is just munching away on the roots of our grass. The summer months, it spends flying around as a beetle. So as soon as you start seeing the beetles on your windows at night, or the Japanese beetles on your roses or on your vegetables, that is grub that's what used to be a grub in your lawn. Now it's out flying around laying its eggs. So the cycle can start over again every summer month, every time summer comes around. Because even if you kill the grubs in your lawn in the spring, or if you kill them in the fall, your neighbor's grubs are gonna hatch, turn into a beetle, fly around the neighborhood, and they're looking, if I was a beetle looking to lay eggs, I'm gonna pick a nice looking lawn. I'm not gonna pick a half dead lawn. So they're looking for the good looking lawns to lay their eggs in. And then those little baby grubs are gonna hatch come August, September, and those little grubs have to turn into big meaty grubs before winter sets in. So that's why we see most of our damage in and lawns from grubs in the fall, late September, October. That's when we start getting the reports that something looks like a rototilled our yard. So what we do is we focus again on prevention. I rather use a small amount of a chemical to kill the baby grub rather than having to use a larger amount of chemical later in the fall to kill the big grubs after they've already been doing damage to my lawn. So the key is to pick a grub control that says apply once a year. This one that says Systemax. It needs to be something that says apply in the spring and gives you annual control, full season control. And really what this is doing is these beetles are going to fly around in the summer, lay their eggs. When they start to hatch, this chemical is just going to get up into the grass, and it's going to just be inside the grass. So anything that starts eating the roots of the grass, the chemical is there and able to kill it as a baby, as opposed to waiting till it's a big meaty grub. So at this point, all you need to do is remember that late May, early June, sometime around now, while we're still getting rain, we focus on putting down a grub preventative. And so any brand I find work as long as it says preventative. Okay, and now the last thing you really have to pay attention to if you're trying to renovate a lawn, commit to whether you're letting that grass go dormant. If you're an irrigation system, then obviously you can fertilize every 6 to 8 weeks all season long, and that grass is going to want to go. But if you're like most of us and you don't irrigate your lawn, we're setting it up to be as healthy and prevent the weeds and the insects over the summer months. But we're not going to touch lawns again until the rain comes back in the fall. And so I find that lawns actually come back looking better in the fall if you let them go dormant over the summer months. If you do not want your grass to go dormant, you really need to pay attention to how much water you're putting on that plant and give it enough to flourish over the one summer. It's not going to like the heat. It wants to go dormant anyway. But if you watch a golf course, they apply a tremendous amount of water to keep that grass looking good all summer. So you got to be committed all the way to irrigating all summer if you're going to keep it up. If not, it is better to just let it go dormant. It's not going to die. Now that being said, if you seeded your lawn this spring, most of us are now paying attention to other things in our yard because that seed that we germinated in the spring is green and it looks like a lawn, or starting to look like a lawn. Now we're going to get on to summer mode into a cookout season, and we're going to forget about the fact that that grass is a baby. It may look like an adult, but it does not have established root system if it only germinated this spring. So if you don't want to be renovating that again next fall, you need to water that grass and make sure that it's getting a good inch of water a week, every week, all summer long. If Mother Nature gives it, great, but it can't be from these passing thunderstorms. It has to be a good soaker, which is hard to find around here in summer. So if you've started grass seed, do yourself a favor, pick the most important areas, keep water on that all summer long. If it's established lawns, just let it go dormant. It's going to do better in the fall, and it's going to come roaring back. I find the hotter and drier our summers are, the more dormant that grass goes. It usually comes roaring back and looks beautiful in the fall. And that's all I do for the lawns. Hope that helps. Take care.